Woo! Hey, good morning. It's Friday, 6:05 a.m. And I'm so glad that you've tuned in this morning because we have got to talk about a few things. We've got to talk about a few things. First, I actually went to a Lincoln dinner. This was in Lincoln, Illinois. That's where I live currently. So I am no longer residing in McLean County. I work in McLean County, go to church in McLean County. So I do have a very vested interest in McLean County. We are going to be talking about the sales tax this morning, the 1% sales tax that's going to be affecting pretty much all of you who live in McLean, all of you who live in McLean County, because every single school district in McLean County practically has this via referendum. The question is, hey, do you want to pay more taxes? Essentially, okay, they're going to be asked this ballot question. Here's what it says. Shall a retailer's occupation tax and service occupation tax, commonly referred to as a sales tax, be imposed in McLean County, Illinois at a rate of 1% to be used exclusively for school facility purposes, school resource officers, and mental health professionals? Look, one, I don't think that it's going to contribute to those things. I really don't. They most likely are going to take this money and put it into their general fund, and then they'll say that they're going to put that money towards school resource officers. But simultaneously, you also have, the state legislature, of Illinois. There was a state representative who, passed legislation, I think it was to ban school resource officers or to get rid of school resource officers entirely. So the rabid Democrats in Illinois are most likely going to make it to where school resource officers aren't a thing. Most Chicago public schools don't have school resource officers. Okay, so they're lying to you. They're going to lie to you, and they're going to say that they're going to make all these improvements, for their dwindling enrollment at these facilities, at these schools. But it's pretty much every school district is going to have this on the ballot. And you're being taxed to death. Have you ever heard of the saying tax or death by 1,000 paper cuts? That's what we're talking about here. And this question is going to be on your April 1st, 2025 ballot. We're going to get to all of that. I did go to the Lincoln dinner in Logan County, and it was fantastic. It was great. I got to hear a lot from candidates. There's speculation growing about, people throwing in their name for the gubernatorial race. Aaron Del Mar spoke. He hinted at possibly making a run in 2026. Now, I don't even think JB is going to be running in 2026. I mean, his budget deficits, they're abysmal, folks. And it's almost like, I don't know how he continues to be governor, but they rely on the Stockholm Syndrome voters, the naive voter base, the Democrat Party. So I don't know if he's going to run in 2026. He might be trying to make a run for president in 2028, and he might announce that maybe in 2026, and then some other Democrat steps in. I don't know. Love Aaron Del Mar. If he were to throw his name in the hat, I think that would be a great campaign. It would be a great campaign. One thing that he told me the other day or yesterday while he was there, he says, I hope it's not so crowded. And, I kind of agree with him. I think that we were really distracted in the last gubernatorial primary because there were so many candidates. I mean, it was just like 5, 6 candidates. I can't even remember all of them. Richard Irvin, Darren Bailey, Gary Rabine, Sullivan. So there were just so many candidates, and I think that it distracted us from, the goal of getting a Republican in there. Not that I'm against primaries or against any of that, but having a really crowded primary, it does cause, tension within the Republican Party, and it sets us back a few steps, I think, from getting to that goal of finally having a conservative Republican in the governor's office. So I want to talk about the sales tax first, and then I'm going to get to this complete insanity. You guys are going to get a kick out of this. This is a Democrat elected official. And like I said, I don't know what kind of voters vote for these types of people, but they've got to be really naive and have Stockholm syndrome, and they're abused by their politicians, and then they're in this abusive relationship, and they just keep voting for these individuals. This woman She hates Donald Trump so much, she got herself sterilized, folks. Yes, she got herself fixed because she hates Donald Trump that much. That actually happened in the state of Michigan. She's a state representative in Michigan. Insane. We're going to talk about the Democrat congressman who filed new articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump, claiming that he has dastardous deeds, he's continues to have dastardous deeds, dastardly deeds is what he said. So he failed to explain what those dastardly deeds are and why he's exactly filing these new articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump. But whatever, we're going to talk about it. And then USAID spending, the scandal, it still continues today. The left is outraged because USAID, and I don't even think they're completely shutting it down. So I'm kind of confused if they're going to completely shut it down. I saw today Marco Rubio, it was like, I don't know, 1,400 or something like that USAID employees. He got to cut down to like 200 something. Which is explosive. That's awesome that we can cut government that much. And that's exactly what Doge is trying to do. But Marco Rubio is going to be heading up the USAID if they are to salvage this agency, this government agency. But this government agency essentially was a slush fund for progressives and their, woke agenda, and to promote their woke agenda in all corners of the world. And really what they did, they were funding disinformation with your tax dollars. They were funding fake news Politico. And they were spreading fake news and, fact checking, PolitiFact, right? That they are all about spreading disinformation. So we're going to get to it here in just a little bit. But first, as always, I do want to start locally. This is incredible. I can't believe that they've got the cojones to put something like this on the ballot, to be honest with you. It's a 1%. Now, you're probably going to hear it referred to as the 1 cent tax. That's deliberate. They want to confuse you. They want it to sound less than it actually is, but it is a 1% sales tax. Okay, so you already pay sales tax. Okay, at the bottom of your receipt, you're going to see, your state sales tax, your local sales tax. Every time you purchase an item, you're going to see all these taxes come out. And on top of that, we're going to have essentially a school sales tax. So we already have a local sales tax. Now, something to remember here is the grocery tax is being eliminated. And I think it begins January 1st of 2026, that elimination of the grocery tax, the state grocery tax. That was eliminated by Governor J.B. Pritzker's like a, stupid little, grandstanding move. It doesn't really do anything because here's what's going to wind up happening. It's actually worse. They eliminated the state's grocery tax, but now this allows local municipalities to raise your local taxes, your local sales tax, and it doesn't have to go to referendum. So they can raise it by pretty much whatever they want. Okay, your local sales tax with this, bill that went through. It's now law. It's going to go into effect January 2026. So you have to keep in mind that most municipalities are going to be raising your local sales tax probably more than what that grocery tax elimination was even all about. Okay, we had the state grocery tax that's been eliminated, but now local, and believe me, if you don't think Bloomington City Council is going to do this and Normal isn't going to do this, you're sleeping. They're going to raise that local sales tax probably even more than what the grocery tax was. They're not even just going to, raise it by a little bit to cover what they lost from the grocery tax, because a little bit of that grocery tax went to the local municipalities and they worked out a deal that the local municipalities could raise their taxes if Governor J.B. Pritzker went through with this grocery sales tax that he eliminated. And it was really just campaigning. This was something for Governor J.B. Pritzker to write a nice press release about. It does nothing. Essentially, it's just going to make it to where the local municipalities can tax you even more and not bring it to referendum, by the way. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind when you're voting with this sales tax, okay? Number two, you have to keep in mind, and this is like, people are touting this. I don't know. I think it was somebody from some district, but they're touting how 35% of the 1 cent tax. Now, remember, it's not a 1 cent tax, it's a 1% tax. Okay. So it takes a percentage of what you purchase and it taxes you on it. Okay. So the estimated 35% of the 1 cent tax revenue, this is according to April 1 cent. I don't know if it's a PAC or whatever. The estimated 35% of the 1 cent tax revenue would be generated by visitors, commuters, and non-residents of McLean County. Items not currently subject to sales tax are groceries, medications, vehicles, and services would not be taxed under this proposal. So you have these individuals who are proponents of this sales tax going out there and pretty much bragging that they are going to be taxing people who aren't going to be benefiting from those taxes. Okay, so you're going to be benefiting off of the money and the labor, really, of other individuals who are visiting here in the community. Do you think people are going to visit or spend time in Bloomington Normal when they could go, maybe the next town over and not have to pay, the next county over and not have to pay this 1% sales tax? I know I would. I know I would shop in the next community over. I'd go to Pontiac, okay? Livingston County, they don't have this 1% sales tax for schools, right? I know I'd probably fill up there or I'd shop there before going into Bloomington Normal if I was visiting, for a long period of time. Because I'm going to save money, right? So this is going to actually probably tank tourism, tank our economy in a way where people aren't visiting and spending dollars here. They'll just go to the town over and spend the dollars there and then, utilize our services and everything. But they're going to work and spend their money in other places, okay? And people will come into Bloomington for a visit, but they won't spend money, okay? So they're going to just go to the town over and buy their groceries and buy their gas and fill up there. Because, you're getting screwed as a visitor and they're laughing at you, okay? If you just pass through and buy some groceries here, or if you pass through and fill up, this is a joke. They don't get to benefit. So those people who, just pass through, they're paying taxes, an exorbitant amount of taxes, because remember, you also have your sales tax, your gas tax, your everything, your local sales tax, everything on that receipt, okay, is going to that community on top of this other 1%. So I know it sounds, especially when they use this, silly language like 1 cent tax, which is totally inaccurate. I know it sounds like it's not a whole lot, but it is, because you're going to wind up. Now, one thing you also need to know about McLean County. McLean County is not a PTEL. So PTEL, it's like limitations on your property tax levy and how much you can raise it. Now, I do believe locally there are ordinances in place where, if you go over 5% or if you increase the property tax levy by 5%, you have to hold a meeting and inform the public that you plan on raising that property tax or take it to referendum. But PTEL is a statewide thing, and McLean County is not a PTEL county, which means there's no limitations really on the property tax. They could change that ordinance easily. If you've got a Democrat majority, which we do, they could easily change that ordinance, come up with a proposal, change the ordinance, the local ordinance that limits them on raising that property tax levy. And then they could raise that levy, okay, the property tax levy on top of, and that's what they're going to wind up doing, folks, because the Democrats have the majority now. They're going to raise the property tax levy. You're going to pay more in property taxes. They're going to try to say that this sales tax is going to actually lower your property taxes because we're going to be taking from your, sales. We're going to be taking from, but that's not true. We all know when they say that, oh, we'll actually provide you and we'll support our schools, and there actually will be property tax relief because we're going to be getting some money from this kitty instead of the property tax kitty. Not true. They are greedy, and they are probably going to change the ordinance, and so that way they're allowed to increase that levy to a point where you are going to be. And by the way, McLean County, statewide, I think it's like, I don't know the exact numbers, but we're one of the worst in the state as far as property taxes. Okay, it's pretty comparable to places like Cook County. Our property taxes. Now, Illinois pays some of the highest property taxes, the highest property taxes in the nation, practically. But on top of that, you've got McLean County paying, way higher property taxes than most other counties in the state. So they're going to probably, manipulate this ordinance to give them even more power to tax you into oblivion. So this is not going to cut your property taxes. Your property tax bill, pretty much all of it, is going to schools already. I don't know what the hell the schools are doing with your money, but they're not using it wisely. And, you'd be smart to not vote for this thing. They're going to tax you into oblivion. You have to keep in mind that your taxes are likely already going to go up, not to mention at a state level, they're going to be raising your sales tax. Okay. At a state level, they're going to be raising your taxes. So, I mean, you are going to die by the death of 1,000 paper cuts. Okay. It's already impossible to live in the state of Illinois because of the taxation. And, I just don't like the deceptive practices that this PAC, and of course, we don't know the name of the PAC, who's behind this, or anything on their website. It's april1cent.info, and it's just a bunch of crappy propaganda where they're sitting there calling this a 1 cent tax. That is disingenuous, and it's deceptive. And I'm just so sick of these people who come out and say, "Oh, we're going to do." You just asked. Unit 5 just asked for you to increase the taxes to save the extracurriculars, and you voted for it. And here they are again, holding out the cup and saying, "More, please." They're never going to give you property tax relief. They're probably going to raise your property taxes on top of getting the 1% sales tax. Sorry, I'm fired up this morning. I hate when people steal your money because I care about you. And I know that you work hard, and these individuals, they don't work hard at all. I mean, in these school districts, they're begging for money. I'm telling you, the kids can't read. Governor J.B. Pritzker is out there bragging about the nation's report card. The national average is not something we should strive for. We're a little bit higher than the national average. I think it's like 33% of Illinois students can read at grade level. It's way less than half of kids can read at grade level. That's what we're talking about here. So no, they don't deserve the 1% sales tax. Show me you can teach the kids to read and do math at grade level. At least get half of them doing that, and then I'll give you the 1% sales tax. All right, I got to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Sorry, I'm fired up this morning. It just, grinds my gears so much. I mean, I got to show you this propaganda. You'll see it. I saw this and I was just like, gosh, this is straight up propaganda. What's going on here? All right. So some PAC, and we don't know who's running this PAC. We don't know who's involved in this. There's obviously this website. So they're in support of the sales tax. They say that the funds will be used. Most likely it's going to go to their general fund, I'd imagine. There's rules around that. If you get the tax, you can't just put it into, this kitty for school resource officers. And, it sounds like it's going to be going because, life safety measures, school resource officers, mental health services. So you can't, most of the time. Now, I might not. Sorry, my cat jumped up on the studio and I was like, nope, you can't do that. There's buttons here. But most likely you can't, say, oh, we're going to be doing all of these things and divert that money directly to, the school resource fund or the school resource officer salary fund. Okay. No, most likely it's going to be going to some sort of general fund, and they're going to be divvying out from there. So there are no promises, okay, that money isn't going to be going towards, I don't know. Oh, here it is right here. Facility improvements. Roof repairs, energy efficient updates. So the key words here are energy efficient updates. Solar panels on top of rooftops. Now, do I have to remind you that one of these schools almost burnt down to the ground because they had solar panels on the top of their roof? Durable equipment in new school buildings. They actually without referendum, District 87, they already got and acquired a new school building, by the way, and they should have gone to referendum for this, but Dave Kaler was working with the District 87, and they purposefully went around the the referendum to require to ask to acquire this building. It's the old State Farm building. They want to make it into a preschool because Governor J.B. Pritzker wants your kids early. So Dave Kaler, he got it to where they didn't have to take it to referendum and ask you if it'd be okay to, take or to acquire the building. And why would you have to bring it to referendum? Well, one, you're taking that building out of the property, so they're not going to be paying, property taxes. So you're taking that revenue out of the property tax kitty. And then also you got the maintenance of the building and everything. And that's going to cost you money as a taxpayer in the District 87 district, or in that District 87 area. To pay for that building. So usually, had it not been for Dave Kaler and his nonsense, you would have been asked about that District 87 building. But in Democrat fashion, and they always do this, they make it to where you don't have to be asked about taxation. Taxation without representation. That's really what that's all about. The Bloomington Normal Airport Authority, they did the same thing. They didn't take it to referendum to expand the Bloomington Normal Airport Authority tax base. So they're taxing everybody in McLean County rather than just the Bloomington Normal residents. Okay, so they're taxing these rural communities who probably don't utilize the airport all that much. So it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. You're getting taxed into oblivion. McLean County is one of the worst in the state. We're up there, we're past the averages for the property tax. Property taxes, what we pay in property taxes, we pay way more than pretty much every other county in the state. Cook County obviously has us beat, and a few of the northern counties do, but compared to all of our neighbors, right? Our neighbors, Logan County, Livingston County, other counties here, they don't tax nearly as high. So, my suggestion to avoid crazy high property taxes, get out of the McLean County School District. To be honest with you, get out of the McLean County District because you're paying way more in comparison to surrounding counties. And or reducing property taxes, paying off facility bonds, and or reducing property taxes. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. That's not going to happen. These people are greedy. They're going to raise your property tax levies simultaneously and also raise your sales tax. Items not groceries, prescription medications, farm equipment, professional and personal hair care. So the ones that applies to only purchases currently subject to the sales tax. Example purchases include coffee at Starbucks. So if you pay $5, you're going to be paying an extra 5 cents, on that coffee for this. A laptop at Best Buy, $500, you're going to be paying $5 in sales tax. Gas at a BP, you're going to be paying 60 cents if you spend $60. A t-shirt at Target, 20 cents for $20 t-shirt at Target. Okay, that's what we're looking at here. That all adds up, folks. Okay, if we even were to just do this, okay, you went out, got gas, got a t-shirt, got a laptop, and got some coffee. Add all of this up, you're spending $5.85 just going straight to your government. And I know that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it is. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts because this is just one tax, okay, on top of the other local sales tax that is likely going to go up because of the elimination of the grocery tax as well. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Sorry, I'm a little fired up about the sales tax. It just peeves me off when, they're lying to you as well. They're saying that this is going to support property tax relief. Nobody in Illinois is serious about property tax relief. You want to get serious about property tax relief, stop raising the dang levies, okay? The property tax levies. Go back to a zero-based budget, okay? Decrease the property tax levy, okay? Because our assessed values are going up. There's no need for you to continue to raise the property tax levies in McLean County. And like I said, McLean County is one of the worst counties in the state for property taxes. Okay, so just go to a county over and you don't even have to pay, you don't have to pay this sales tax for the schools. You don't have to pay the exorbitant property taxes. Although, everywhere in Illinois is paying exorbitant property taxes because we're number one in the nation, I'm pretty sure, to pay like the highest property taxes ever. So, yeah. And then they're out there touting that it's cool to take from our tourists, even though they don't benefit, obviously, from. So the property tax model, you obviously benefit a little bit from the school district being in your area, and you as the property taxpayer, you're the user of those facilities of the school district. You can either send your kid to the school, and even if you don't have kids in the school district, your property values, if you have a good school district, your property value will go up and you can sell for higher. Okay, so yeah, I mean that property taxes translate to schools, and the majority of your property taxes already go to schools. Like I don't know what the percentage is, but it's dang near 90% probably. Okay, tons of money goes from your property taxes to the school. That's essentially where your property taxes go. And they're asking for another sales tax on top of that. It's just insanity to me. They just Unit 5 just raised your taxes via the tax referendum. Remember, yes, for Unit 5, and they threatened, the extracurriculars. They said those were going to shut down. They've got spending problem. I don't know how they need this much money, to be honest with you, especially considering their enrollment is down everywhere. Enrollment is down everywhere. So it's just complete insanity. I've got to get to this. I want to get to this Democrat official who hates Donald Trump so bad that she got herself sterilized. Yes. So one thing to be having a hard time, it's one thing to be having a hard time with the election results and to not like Donald Trump. Okay, that is one thing. But it's a whole nother thing, okay, when you have people to start sterilizing themselves based on lies. Okay, so this Michigan state representative, her name is Laura Pahutsky, and she announced that she was has sterilized herself in fears that Trump is going to criminalize abortion, even though that couldn't be further from the truth, folks. Okay, I've been very clear. Donald Trump is actually soft on abortion, in my opinion. I think it'd be great if he criminally signed a criminalized federal abortion ban. I think it'd be awesome, but he won't do it, okay, because that's not Donald Trump. So she underwent surgery, this Michigan state representative, earlier this year and became voluntarily sterile out of fear for the future of reproductive health care access with President Donald Trump back in office. Here's what she said, quote, "Just under 2 weeks ago, I underwent surgery to ensure that I would never have to navigate a pregnancy in Donald Trump's America. I refuse to let my body be treated as currency by an administration that only sees value in my ability to procreate." This woman's bisexual, by the way. The lengths at which these people will go to prove their lack of a point, it's just astonishing to me. It's all based on lies, too. How many times does Trump have to say it, that he believes abortion should be left up to the states? He agrees with the Supreme Court, by the way. It's not just Donald Trump, but the Supreme Court says that it should be left up to the states. Plus, she lives in Michigan, of all places. This just shows how delusional she is, because in Michigan, much like Illinois, it is a right under their constitution, under their state constitution. Abortion is enshrined as a right. Illinois made abortion a protected right as well. Like I said, how many times have I got to tell you guys? You guys understand this, though. Rights are not something that somebody else gives you. Like, you can't perform your own abortion. Okay, I'm sorry. You could try. You probably would injure yourself very, very much if you tried to perform your own abortion. Okay, so anything anybody else has to give you, whether that's food or is something you have to work for, that it's not a human right. Okay, so education, not a human right. Healthcare, not a human right. Anything that somebody has to provide services or put in work for, that's not a human right. Okay, it's just not. So abortion is not a human right. Healthcare isn't a human right. Food isn't a human right. Okay. I'll tell you what is a human right: life. And people who kill you have to go serve prison time. Okay, so abortion, in my opinion, y'all should be in prison. Okay, you're killing people. Right to life. Okay, it's laid out in our Declaration of Independence. Endowed by a creator, right? Our creator gives us life, and nobody should be able to take that away. You spend the rest of your life in prison if you take somebody's life away. So Trump, he isn't ever going to federally criminalize abortion. Okay, he has never said that. And even if Trump wanted to, okay, how is that treating your body like it's currency? And you're treated as currency by the administration that only sees your value in the ability to procreate. I don't see where you get that from that. Even if Trump federally criminalized abortion, that doesn't mean that the administration only sees, your value and your ability to procreate. That doesn't mean that. It just means that they recognize life begins at conception, and you can't take people's lives. Okay, so it doesn't make any sense, slightest bit of sense, where she says that this administration only sees my value and my ability to procreate, and they treat me as if I'm currency. That doesn't. Where'd you get that from? Number one, he's not even federally criminalizing abortion. Number two, even if he was, it didn't mean that they are treating you like currency. It just is a law, and they believe that, hey, abortion is murder. That's essentially what federally criminalizing abortion would do, would be recognizing abortion as murder. Not a single person in the White House, I guarantee you, views this, her, ability to procreate as a currency. Okay, nobody views her as a currency, and and nobody sees her value only in her ability to procreate. Nobody in the White House believes that kind of stuff. So it's just completely narcissistic. It's delusional. This woman, this is a Michigan state representative who sterilized herself. So she goes on, she says this, quote, "If people are questioning how serious this is, I'm going to repeat myself. A sitting government official opted for voluntary sterilization because she was uncertain she would be able to access contraception in the future." So, look, this doesn't even prove, anything remotely to being serious. Okay, you are not a serious person. You did this on lies. You did this all based on lies. And our access to contraception is not under threat. Donald Trump is not taking condoms away from people, okay? It's not under threat. So, you're pathetically trying to prove your lack of a point, and it's really just a bizarre behavior. And the fact that people of Michigan voted for somebody this insane proves that we have a mental health crisis, okay? And she's a literal lunatic, which means we've got lunatics in Michigan voting for this woman. And we've got a mental health crisis on our hands. This is what happens when patients start running the asylum, folks. This behavior is unsurprising when you take into account that the patients have started running the asylum, and nobody is anybody paying attention? This woman sterilized herself based on lies, based on the lie that Donald Trump is going to criminally sign a abortion ban or criminalize abortion, federally criminalize abortion. That's just not happening. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. Good morning. I so do appreciate is not productive. Yeah, it does not produce. Yes, reproductive health is not productive. Good morning, David Paul Blumenshine. Appreciate you. Ending life is a sin. Ending human life is a sin. Yes, we have had cuckoos. We have had the patients running the asylum, and it's shocking. I don't know what Michigan voters are voting for this woman, but sterilization. Come on, and it's all based on lies. Donald Trump, how many times has he got to say it? It should be left up to the states. And she lives in a state where they've enshrined abortion as a human right, which means you have to have Medicaid pay for it. You've gotta, you can't deny anybody an abortion. This is a human right, as they've deemed it in Michigan and in Illinois. So absolutely insane. If I didn't have to pay for the school, my property tax would probably be around $700. I'm curious, what's your property tax bill paying for the school? I know it's got to be more than $700. But yeah, the property taxes, the sales tax. I mean, this is outrageous. I just can't believe that they've got the cojones to come out here and ask you for more money. It's kind of like that friend that continues to ask you, or like that kid that won't get his life together and he continues to ask you for money, and he won't get a job, right? That's what it feels like with this sales tax. We already are paying a local sales tax, okay, and that is going to go up, and you have to keep that in mind. Your local sales tax. So Normal, Bloomington, they have local sales tax. That's going to go up because those municipalities were told by Governor J.B. Pritzker that they could raise that due to the grocery tax elimination. Okay, so essentially, it was Governor J.B. Pritzker's way of coming out with a press release, right, and saying, hey, I eliminated the state's grocery tax. No, not really, because it's just going to be made up and probably then some through the local sales tax, because guess what? The municipalities now, they can raise without referendum, by the way, they can raise your local sales tax. And that was part of the deal if they eliminated the grocery tax, because some of the grocery tax went back to the local municipalities, the state tax. But part of the deal was, hey, you can raise it and you don't have to go to referendum for it. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. Not to mention, McLean County is a little bit of an outlier in the sense that they don't have PTEL. Now, PTEL, it's, I forget exactly what it stands for. Hang on, I can look that up. But it's a limitation law where you can't raise your property tax levy by a certain amount without triggering like a taxation meeting so you'd have to meet with your community, and you'd have to hold a meeting in order to raise the property tax by that much. Now, McLean County is not a PTEL county. So property tax extension law limit. Okay, so PTEL in Illinois is designed to limit the increases of property tax extension for non-home rule taxing districts. Although the law is commonly referred to as tax caps, the use of this phrase can be misleading. So really what this is it's not a tax cap. They just have to hold like a meeting. If they violate PTEL or if they go over that limit, they'd have to hold a meeting. Now, McLean County doesn't have to do that because they're not a PTEL county. Now, or locally, I do believe, and I'd have to check into this a little bit, McLean County via ordinance, and this would be easy to kind of just scrap, being that the Democrats have the majority, and if they haven't done it already, they could pass a resolution to scrap that ordinance that limits them for the I forget, there's a specific name for this meeting, but you'd have to call a meeting to inform the community that you are raising their property taxes by over 5%. I don't know why, but 5% is sticking in my head. Maybe that's the local ordinance limit. So if you're raising it more than that, then you'd have to call a meeting, and that would trigger the local ordinance limits. Okay. But the local ordinance limit, I mean, whatever, like locally, you could change that with the resolution. You could pass a resolution and, change the ordinance to, say if it's at 5% right now, you could change it to 10%. So nothing is really stopping. Here's my point. McLean County from raising your property taxes simultaneously while they ask you for a new sales tax. So you're going to have your local sales tax, but then you're going to also have a school sales tax, which is just wild to me that they could even do this. I mean, the majority of the property tax bill is going to them, and then their enrollment is going down. The kids can't read on top of that. What the hell are you doing with the money? Not to mention that several districts, Unit 5, for one, a couple of years ago increased the tax rate. Okay, Anya, they increased the tax rate, so you were paying more for taxes, so that way they'd save the extracurriculars. It's just disgusting what they're doing to you. They tax you to breathe. What's next? Are they going to tax the sunshine, the trees, the grass that you walk on? I mean, that's where we're headed here, folks. Good morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Who can tax the sunrise? Who can tax the trees? The government can. Yes, they what's next? I mean, they're charging you a local sales tax already, grocery tax, they've got the gas tax. Now they eliminated the state's grocery tax, by the way. And this is what you have to keep in mind. In 2026, your local sales tax is going up. Like, there's no way that Bloomington and normal municipalities are not going to raise your local sales tax because they have the ability to do so. And Governor J.B. Pritzker, via the elimination of the grocery tax, said, hey, you can raise your local sales tax just because I'm eliminating the grocery tax. And you can do it without referendum. So you can raise it by whatever you need to cover the grocery tax elimination. And you don't have to go to referendum at all, so don't even worry about it. Just raise them however much you want, the local sales tax, as long as I got my press release saying that I eliminated the state's grocery tax, okay? So you have to keep in mind that that's going up in 2026, most definitely. And then you're also going to be paying, folks, this school sales tax if you vote yes on this. It's a ballot question. To essentially give the schools a sales tax, like their own separate sales tax. Now, it's disgusting that we have members of this community out there touting that our tourists, 35% of this 1 cent tax. Now, don't listen to those people who call it a 1 cent tax. That is straight up propaganda, and they're trying to mislead you. It's a 1% tax, okay? So you could buy something and then so your $5 coffee at Starbucks, it's going to cost you 5 cents more every single morning. And that 5 cents is going to be going to the school district, okay? Your school district that you reside or that you buy the cup of coffee in. Okay, so if you vote for this thing, you are going to die by the death of 1,000 paper cuts, okay? Because simultaneously, they're probably going to be raising your property tax levy, which McLean County can do, and they aren't a PTEL, and PTEL stands for Property Tax Extension Law Limit. They're not a PTEL county, which means that they can increase your property taxes. Most likely they have a local ordinance, but let's be real here. If the majority is Democrats, they're just going to probably wipe their butts with the local ordinance that says that you have to call a meeting in order to raise it over by 5%. I'm just throwing out a number there, but they're going to, wipe their butts with it, pass a resolution to get rid of it, and then they're going to raise your property taxes again. McLean County already pays some of the highest property taxes in the state. Okay, outside of maybe some northern counties, we're up there. Okay, so it's really embarrassing that you've got McLean County when you could just go the county over. And this is what's going to happen. It's going to tank our tourism because the tourists, they're going to be like, oh, I've got to pay extra dollars when I go visit Bloomington Normal. Nah, I'll just grab my groceries and fill up in the county over. And that's what I'll do. I'll just go over to Livingston County. I'll go over to Wally's in Pontiac and I'll fill up there. And I'll, grocery shop there. I guess the sales tax doesn't affect groceries, or I'll grab my coffee there before I go into Bloomington. And that's going to tank our economy as well. And to be touting that and to almost take pride in the fact that you are, robbing tourists of their hard-earned dollars, and they're not even going to be utilizing this tax. Okay, so allegedly it's going to go to school resource officers, mental health services. whatever they say it's going to go to, these school facilities say that it's going to go there. And they also said energy efficient upgrades. So we all know what that means. They want solar panels on the tops of their roofs, which, I don't know when they're going to learn. Olympia, they almost burned down their entire school with the solar panels that they had put up there. So they're likely going to take it towards facility upgrades, solar panels on the tops of their roofs where your kids go to school and they're going to combust. And then the fire department's going to get out there and they're like, I don't know how to put out this fire. It's got a converter and we've got to, put out this fire very strategically. It's going to be hard. Yeah, I mean, where your kids are learning, they are planning to put solar panels on the tops of their roofs. That's what that means. Energy efficient facilities. They're going to be putting solar panels on the tops of the roofs of the schools. That's what this sales tax is actually for. Mark my words. And they're touting that tourists are going to be paying for it, but the tourists aren't going to be benefiting at all. They're not sending their kids to the school district, non-residents, McLean County non-residents. They're not sending the kids to the school districts that are allegedly going to be seeing all of these awesome upgrades, like more school resource officers, whatever. And I wouldn't even bank on that, folks, because every single day the state legislators are doing something wacky where they're going to probably craft legislation to outlaw school resource officers. Don't believe me, Chicago's dealing with that right now. I think it was locally. I don't know if it was a state thing, but locally, the Chicago public schools, they got rid of all of their school resource officers. Okay, they got rid of them because it made the kids feel uncomfortable. Yeah, that's so. Don't you think for a second that won't happen in McLean County? They might just say one day, yeah, we're going to get rid of the school resource officer. So we stole all this money from you, but we're going to get rid of all the school resource officers. Why? Because we can. And yeah, it's just, I'm fired up about this morning. I just can't believe the propaganda that's out there. And they think that you're stupid. That's what really bothers me about the whole thing. Oh, great. Democrats, they're losing it, specifically Congressman Al Green. He is threatening to file articles of impeachment against Donald Trump for reasons that he can't even explain. So we're going to get to that. New articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump. We'll be right back. So there's actually a lot of cool things that Brad Holbrook has introduced for property tax relief. I like this. Anyone over 65 should have their property taxes halved. I don't even think property taxes should be a thing. I don't even think income taxes should be a thing. I think that, taxing goods. So I'm not actually against a sales tax. That actually makes sense. I'm not against, sales tax, even a gas tax. I'm not really against a gas tax for it to go to our roads. It kind of makes sense. I'm not totally against taxes, by the way. Property taxes don't make a ton of sense to me because, you have the right to property. You that's like a foundation, the fabric of America, that your property is yours. And in order to stay on your property, if you don't pay your property taxes, just try not paying your property taxes. They're going to boot you off of your land. So I don't like that. The fact that you can have your house completely paid off. You have your house paid off. You purchased the slot. You paid for the land. And then on top of that, you have to pay property taxes for the rest of your life in order to really live on that land. That means that you don't have ownership of that property because you try not paying your property taxes. Guess what will happen to you? You will be booted off. Okay, your lot, and you truly don't own your land when you have to pay property taxes. That's why I'm against them. I don't even think that we should have them. There's plenty of other ways to tax, and that's how it was, back in the day, the taxation on the tea and everything. We taxed goods. Okay, if you buy certain things at the store, you get taxed more, maybe on like more expensive items, and it's percentage, right? So if you buy a laptop, then you're going to get taxed a little bit more than if you were to buy a coffee or something. And, I think that's really great for the economy. In fact, you've got this, incentive to go out and buy, especially if you work in government, you're going to go out and buy and not feel bad about it because you're like, okay, I buy this laptop. It's actually going to be going to, my school district. If we were to, reserve just local sales taxes. Now, I'm not saying, we wouldn't have to raise it a little bit, raise the local sales taxes a little bit. Now, it's going to be tough without income taxes. Now, Donald Trump is talking about this, where he just gets rid of federal income taxes. I don't know if you could get rid of state income taxes, but I hate them personally. I don't like them. I'd like to just do sales taxes, but I'm a realist, and I think that you might have to do keep the income taxes and keep the sales taxes, maybe go a little higher on the percentage for the sales taxes. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but property tax is totally unconstitutional. You definitely deserve the right to own a property and not be booted off just simply for not paying taxes. Okay, so yeah, the property tax relief that Brad Holbrook has introduced, I really actually enjoy. There is this freeze on local property tax levies from raising. Okay, so we have a problem. Each and every year, our assessed values go up. And each and every year, they might tout once in a while that, hey, we didn't raise the property taxes this year, or the property tax levy this year, it stayed the same. Well, that doesn't mean necessarily that they're not getting more money. Okay, they are getting more money in the sense that the assessed values have gone up, the property tax levy stays the same. So they're getting more revenue, okay, even if they keep that property tax levy stagnant. In most cases, they don't even keep it stagnant. They'll raise it along with the raised assessed property values, okay? So they're making money hand over fist. Hand over fist. What needs to happen is truly a decrease in the levy, and we go back to a zero-based budget. And that's truly what needs to happen. But they won't do it. They won't do it because they're greedy. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the News and Talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single day. Yes, this guy has introduced articles of impeachment. Yes, he's, at least threatened to file articles of impeachment against Trump for reasons that he can't even really explain. His name is Al Green, and he's a congressman. Take a listen.
And still I rise, Mr. Speaker. And I rise today, Mr. Speaker, with a to whom it may concern message. To whom it may concern, ethnic cleansing in Gaza is not a joke, especially when it emanates from the President of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, when he has the ability to perfect what he says. Ethnic cleansing in Gaza is no joke, and the Prime Minister of Israel should be ashamed, knowing the history of his people, to stand there and allow such things to be said. Ethnic cleansing has been a crime against humanity. And I stand here today in the well to denounce what was said, to denounce what the president said, to denounce the complicity of the Prime Minister of Israel, and to remind people that Dr. King was right. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And injustice in Gaza is a threat to justice in the United States of America. I rise to announce that the movement to impeach the president has begun. I rise to announce that I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done. I also rise to say that the impeachment movement is going to be a grass-up movement, not a top-down. The people have got to move forward. The people have to demand it. And when the people demand it, it will be done. I did it before. I laid the foundation for impeachment, and it was done. Nobody knows more about it than I. And I know that it's time for us to lay the foundation again. On some issues, it is better to stand alone than not stand at all. On this issue, I stand alone, but I stand for justice.
Oh, boy. All right. Lots going on there. We're going to break it down on the other side. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Absolutely incredible. Let's take a listen to a little bit
I
more.
yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities toward the president.
Okay. So notice how he talks about dastardly deeds done and dastardly deeds that he continues to do, but he doesn't talk about those deeds. He claims that Donald Trump is engaging in ethnic cleansing. Now, folks, last time I checked, I don't think Donald Trump ever gave a speech where he said that he wants to ethnically cleanse Gaza. On the stream a couple of days ago, somebody had chimed in and they said, I think that the Gaza Strip, this is a way of kind of, stopping the endless wars. We are funding both sides of these wars all of the time in the Middle East, Israel, and then whoever is trying to abolish Israel. It just changes every other year, who's trying to abolish Israel. Now, remember, the Palestinians, right? Okay, these aren't even a real people because there is no such country as Palestine, truly. And, to say that he wants to ethnically cleanse Gaza, nobody really, has nobody really has ownership of Gaza at this point. It should belong to the Jewish people, the Gaza Strip. That's what is biblically promised, okay, to the Israelis. But the Palestinians, they're not even really supposed to be there. So how can you ethnically cleanse a group of people if they're not even really supposed to be there, and they're not even truly an ethnicity? Okay, they're not. They're Palestinians. That would suggest that there's a country, Palestine. There's not. Palestine is ruled. It's a autonomous zone, essentially. So you guys remember Chaz, Chazanians or whatever, the people who resided in Chaz. It was like a little faction of extremists who were within the state of, or were within Seattle. It was just like this little faction of people, and it wasn't recognized by the United States as a new state, right? The Palestine country hasn't been recognized as really a country, and they're ran by Hezbollah terrorists, okay? So, I mean, they're not really an ethnicity, because they're not really like, they're, I guess, Middle Eastern. It might be but like, they're terrorists. Okay, it's not anything. It doesn't have anything to do with their ethnicity. I don't even know what you could call the people who are, they're Middle Eastern people, much like the Israelis are Middle Eastern people. Really, it has nothing to do with ethnicity at all with what Trump wants to do and take Gaza Strip. Somebody on the stream the other day, they were like, "Oh, well, if he takes the Gaza Strip, that might stop all of these wars." And that might be a permanent solution to peace over there. So it's kind of like similar to if your kids are fighting over a toy and, or one person or one kid just can't share, okay, and they can't share this toy. You as the parent steps in, you take the toy and you put it up in your closet and nobody gets the toy. Okay, so that's kind of what we're talking about here with Gaza, and Donald Trump has to come in like the, responsible parent and take away the toy, Gaza. No one in their right mind would want to live there. Gaza is a wasteland right now. Yeah. So it's not like he's going to be ethnically cleansing anybody from that strip, because it's not like there's a people that live in the Gaza Strip. Okay. The Gaza Strip is a piece of land, okay, that Donald Trump wants to take in order to stop this feud between Arabic nations and the Israelis. Okay. And it just changes every other year what Arabic nations and what terrorist group wants to, take over the Gaza Strip and take over a land that is rightfully Israel's. Okay, so it's a wasteland. It has nothing to do with the people there. There's not even really people there at this point because nobody has ownership of that land. So the ethnic cleansing of Gaza would suggest that there's an ethnicity that is owed that land and that they currently reside there. They're fighting over that land right now, the Gaza Strip, the Palestinians and the Israelis. So nobody really really resides in the Gaza Strip permanently right now. It should be the Israelis, but they don't, and they're fighting the Palestinians, kind of for that land. I'm not naive. You've got people who say that it's solely a defense effort. I don't want to say that. The Israelis are taking the offensive in some situations, but rightfully so. The Gaza Strip is theirs. Mostly it started out as defensive, clearly, because of the terrorist attack on October 7th. But they keep getting, 12 million Jews, and there's like 200, 300 million Arabic nations that are hostile to the Israelis. So who really is the underdog? It's the Israelis. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. It's Friday, so to 5 a.m. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Al Green, I just played this clip here for you. I'll play a little bit more just to remind you what he said about the articles of impeachment. He's drafting new articles of impeachment probably right now, and he's going to file these articles of impeachment against Donald Trump for reasons that he didn't even really explain. Take a listen. Here we go.
To denounce what the president
He's a Democrat from Texas, by the way.
said, to denounce the complicity of the Prime Minister of Israel, and to remind people that Dr. King was right. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And injustice in Gaza is a threat to justice in the United States of America. I rise to announce that the movement to impeach the president has begun. I rise to announce that I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done.
Dastardly deeds. Okay, you said dastardly deeds. Now, what are those deeds? Is it he talking about taking the Gaza Strip away from essentially Donald Trump is coming in as the responsible parent here, taking away a toy that the two kids are fighting over, Israel and Palestine, the Palestinians. And now I've talked about how the Palestinians, this is an autonomous zone, okay? It's not even a real country. Palestine is not even a real country. It's an autonomous zone. You guys remember Chaz? I think it was within the city of Seattle. They had built an autonomous zone, and we didn't recognize it as like the 51st state or anything. It was just a bunch of extremists who created an autonomous zone and ran things in Chaz, and the police weren't allowed in, and it was a whole thing. So look up Chaz. It's similar to that. Palestine, and the Palestinians, Hezbollah runs Palestine, I guess, which is an autonomous zone, and nobody really has ownership of the Gaza Strip right now. That's the whole reason for the war. So you can't. So he's claiming here that Trump is ethnically cleansing Gaza by taking Gaza away, and he's not even really taking it away from anybody. He's taking it away from these two I don't even want to call them countries because Palestine isn't a country, Israel is a country, but he's taking the Gaza Strip away so that way there's a permanent solution to peace, okay, because they keep fighting over this. And firstly, I've checked every single speech of Donald Trump's. He's never said that he wants to ethnically cleanse Gaza. Number one, it'd be impossible to do so because there's no ethnicity that currently resides in Gaza. That it's not like there's an ethnicity that is owed Gaza except the Jewish people, but they keep fighting for it, okay? So you can't ethnically cleanse people who aren't really people. Like, nobody really has Gaza. That's the whole reason why we're in this conflict, okay? Secondly, don't you love how he just throws out MLK quotes? Democrats do this all the time. They throw out MLK quotes, and that's how you know that they're really stupid. Thirdly, somebody should really inform him that this toddler-like yelling that he's doing at this podium is not convincing us that Donald Trump is doing whatever he says that he's doing. Dastardly deeds proposed and done. According to the Daily Mail, Representative Al Green, Texas, the movement to impeach President Donald Trump has begun. I rise, and I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done. Oh boy. The Democrat announced this in response to Trump's backing of, quote, ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in Gaza. He's not ethnically cleansing anybody. Palestinians shouldn't even be there. Israelis, they are fighting the Palestinians right now for Gaza. Palestine is not even a country. They're not even really truly, I guess, an ethnicity of people. Because Palestine doesn't exist. Okay, they're Middle Eastern people, but so is Israeli, right? So are the Israelis. So the territory here that the Palestinians are kind of operating out of, it's all controlled by Hezbollah or Hamas terrorists. They're all the terrorists are operating Palestine. This isn't a real country. We're not talking about a real ethnicity. We're talking about terrorists, much like the city of Chaz or the community of Chaz. They were extremists who were operating this zone. Okay, this part of the land. So the left has been caught off guard, and this is why they have created articles of impeachment. The people who will need to impeach the president. He claims that the people are going to be impeaching the president. No. It's you guys, the left, the Democrats, because he's exposed you, number one, through USAID and all of your spending for your slush fund and all of your woke projects, okay, your woke agenda that you're funding all over the world. And, you are, the impeachment articles are because this guy was caught off guard. The Democrats are caught off guard, and they don't know really what else to do other than to act like chickens with their heads cut off. And this is kind of hilarious because they're like, oh, let's do impeachment. Y'all, you don't even have the Senate. You don't have the House. What are you even trying to do? It's pretty pathetic because quite literally this is a PR stunt and it's wasting time and resources. And you're trying to act like this is the people. This is you. This is you because you've been called out on your nonsense by President Donald Trump. And it appears that Democrats are in denial over the election. And they are not abiding by what the people want. They wanted President Donald Trump. They said that loudly on November 5th. And they are continuing to, fight against President Donald Trump's agenda, which is really just a threat against the American people and against the will of the people. Donald Trump's agenda is the will of the people. That's why they voted him. And so they claim to represent you and that you are the reason why they're drafting these articles of impeachment. No, he's probably upset because he was making all kinds of money from the war, and Donald Trump is going to put a stop to that war as soon as he takes the Gaza Strip away. And they could care less about the people who voted for them. They don't care about the people they represent. They want money in their pockets, and that's why he's big mad about the Gaza Strip being taken away, which means they can't fund both sides of the war and make money from the military-industrial complex. All right, I do want to talk about the USAID because they are embroiled, I guess, in this spending scandal is the best way I can describe this. So the left continues to lose their mind over the USAID. And it's been revealed now that your tax dollars are going to Politico, fake news. $8 million has gone to Politico. And Politico has fed disinformation to the masses. Okay, so my show is going to break this down this morning. The White House press secretary, she's awesome, by the way. I love Caroline Levitt. We definitely upgraded from Caroline Jean-Pierre, who is Black and lesbian. I always have to say that because she really cares about that, her insignificant birth rate. So Caroline Jean-Pierre, who is Black and lesbian, she is not as good as Caroline Levitt. I'll just say that. So she confirmed that more than $8 million taxpayer dollars have gone to subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayer dime, okay? So we are subsidizing their subscriptions, and that's no longer going to be happening, according to Caroline Levitt. Now, there are plenty of institutions that are doing this. NPR has an investigation launched against them right now. The FCC director is looking into how they are charging for commercials on top of receiving, I think last year they received, or in 2023, they received like $32 million or something crazy like that in PR. So when you are getting government dollars, there's rules. Okay, you can't charge people for commercials in the same way that you would if you weren't getting money from the government. Okay, so you can't like subsidize your subscriptions, or you can't subsidize your like you're subsidizing your subscriptions, Politico, on the American taxpayer dime. And the United States Postal Service does this as well. I've talked about the revenue that they pull in, and it's an exorbitant amount of revenue. They're charging you for stamps, boxes, whatever. And they claim that they are a private company. They're not. Over the last 4 years, they've gotten like $120 billion. Okay, the U.S. Postal Service. So you tell me if they're, private company. I don't know any other private company that gets $120 billion. Okay, over the course of 4 years. That's insane. Okay, so according to the Washington Times, the announcement came. Caroline Levitt with the $8 million going to Politico of taxpayer dollars after Elon Musk's led Department of Government Efficiency uncovered Politico was paid $8.2 million in government subsidies. Miss Levitt said that the administration is going line by line through federal spending to ensure that the taxpayer dollars are being spent in a manner that serves the interest of the American people. It's not cool that you have these institutions robbing you via your tax dollars, but then also charging you. That's not cool at all. You're making way more money, and it's not fair. And that's what this is all about, really. It's about socialism and communism. They don't want a free market economy where people have to, actually produce a product that is good and services that people want, okay? And then you make money that way. They don't want to operate like that. They want a cushy job where they are guaranteed a paycheck because you're subsidized by the government. Now, Politico, they couldn't even pay their employees here after that money was taken away from them, the USAID funding. Okay. Now, I want to get to this. This is quote Levitt. She says this, Caroline Levitt. If it's not, the funding will no longer be sent abroad, and American taxpayers will see significant savings of that effort if it's not. So if it's not overhauled, this USAID is what she's talking about. If we don't do something about, having the Department of Government Efficiency come in and look through the funding line by line, then we're not going to see the significant savings that taxpayers deserve. Okay, that's what Levitt says. Now, CNN and other leftist outlets, they have called this a right-wing conspiracy theory, the $8.2 million to Politico, and they're saying that that's not real. Okay, but that is real. Now, they're trying to fact check you. The $8.2 million. Now, I did not know this. Apparently, it's not just from the USAID. Okay, it's from multiple government agencies. So multiple government agencies have kicked into that ultimate kitty of the $8.2 million. All federal agencies combined, it's $8.2 million last year to Politico, according to usaspending.gov. Okay, so they're trying to say that it's a right-wing conspiracy. The $8.2 million went to Politico. Now, they're like doing this fact-checking thing. It's not a conspiracy theory. Actually, I think it's worse that you have multiple government agencies contributing to Politico, and contributing money to Politico for the crap that they call news. Okay, on top of them charging you a subscription. I don't have a subscription to Politico. Why? Because it costs, I don't know how much it costs, but it's enough to be like, nah, I'm not going to be subscribing to Politico. It's still $8 million, and the left is going to fact check this as false, but I'd argue that it's almost worse that you have multiple government agencies with a vested interest in Politico, and therefore Politico has a vested interest in all of these government agencies because they rely on that funding. So since 2016, the outlet received over $32 million in funding from government agencies, from all government agencies. Since 2016. I mean, that's quite a bit of money. We're quite literally, the press cannot be free. A free press is so important. And the whole point of free press means that you're not bound by the government. Okay. And the fact that they're doing this, paying Politico means that they're not a free press. And it's so important that we have a free press, somebody who's beholden to the people, not the government. So their job is to be doing what Doge is doing right now, which is to expose what your money is being spent on, okay, because that's your money. That's what your job is as a reporter, is to expose and to show your community what your tax dollars are going towards, okay? I told you, hey, it's likely that, and I, did some journalism on this where I found out that, hey, the grocery tax has been eliminated, and most likely your local municipalities, they're going to be charging you more next year in 2026 to make up for that loss of the grocery tax elimination that Governor J.B. Pritzker touted as a press release, okay? So they're going to be increasing your local sales tax, and I also have an obligation to tell you that McLean County is one of the worst when it comes to property taxes in the state. Okay, and then I also have an obligation to tell you that the property taxes are going to schools with failing enrollment and schools that are having kids not read at grade level. Only 30% of kids in the state of Illinois can read at grade level, something like that. So less than half of kids can read at grade level, and they're expecting another local sales tax to go to them. Okay, 1% sales tax to go to them. I have an obligation as a reporter and as somebody who respects the free press to not be bound by government, okay, and to not do what government tells me to do, and I'll never do that on this program. I have an obligation to provide you the facts and to be your advocate, okay? I'm not the advocate of the government. And I don't care how much the school says and how much the county says they need these tax dollars. I don't care how much you need it for. I'm an advocate for the people and their money and where it's going. McLean County currently has duplicative positions here where they're paying 2 environmental health supervisors like nearly $100,000 salary. I say they don't get another penny from you until they eliminate one of those positions. Okay, if it's a duplicative, they're the same position, darn it. So I say, no, you're not getting a single cent from me until you can somebody, because why would we need 2 of you? Okay, so Politico, they killed the Hunter Biden laptop story, okay? And most likely that's probably why the government is funding them. All of these government agencies are funding Politico. It's because, hey, you silenced this story, therefore you helped us out. Here's some money. On top of that, you've got, the government funding NPR, BBC, PBS, these outlets, these leftist outlets, and they have a vested interest in the government. So they're never going to report negatively on the government. And if the government allows you to exist, could you imagine that entity being beholden to the government? Yes, they're going to be beholden to the government because they wouldn't exist without it. Politico couldn't even make payroll without the USAID funding, okay, because Doge shut it down. And they have a vested interest in larger government. They have a vested interest in socialism and things that you don't want, okay, for America. So, yeah, that's where your government dollars are going. I have an obligation as a reporter, a conservative reporter, to let you know where your tax dollars are going. And it's not going to places that are providing a service, okay, a decent service. We're talking about schools with no kids in them. I mean, and the enrollment is down and declining and continues to decline. And then on top of that, they're not producing children who can read and write and do math. Okay, so why in the world would you spend more money for these facilities? I don't understand it. Not to mention, you're going to be spending more money on these facilities because they're probably going to raise your property. Well, I know they're raising your property taxes in McLean County. They just raised the levy, increased the levy, the property tax levy. I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm not an advocate, or I'm an advocate for conservatives. Yeah, people who want, their money to be going towards things that, that's really what conservative is: a fiscal conservative, a social conservative, somebody who wants to conserve the culture and the finances of the people. Okay, that's all conservative really is. So yeah, I mean, sue me. I'm a conservative, whatever. Yeah, I am going to, call you out if you are spending money on things that don't provide a service or provide a product to the people that is actually substantial. Okay, I'm gonna call you out on that. Sorry, if you're going to be spending money on solar panels that ultimately burn the rooftops of school buildings down and put kids at risk, then yeah, I'm going to call that out and I'm going to say, no, that's probably not something that we should be spending our tax dollars on and continuing to spend our tax dollars on and asking people to spend more money on. So yeah, I'm going to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Smash that like button, please, and share this out with your friends. Good morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9 The News and Talk Bloomington Normal. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Yes, you're going to have a lot of these rural, superintendents coming out. I just was reading the government paid for WGLT article. And, by the way, NPR gets like $32 million a year from the government, by the way. So, of course, they're not going to speak out against the government when it comes to the sales tax. The government's going to want it, okay, but they're going to want higher salaries. And that's really what's going on here is the teachers want higher salaries. The administrators want higher salaries. It's really disingenuous. They didn't even do their homework. They're talking about this new website. It's april1cent.info. And, David Mauser, he actually, commented on the article and he provided the website link to everybody. It's interesting because I have no idea who's behind this PAC, and that's how they operate. The Democrats here locally, what they'll do is they'll create a PAC. Nobody really knows who's running the PAC. Unit 5, yes, for Unit 5, nobody really knew who's really running that PAC to increase your taxes just a couple of years ago for Unit 5. Nobody really knows who's running the PAC to support this so-called 1 cent tax, and they do this on purpose. They call it the 1 cent tax. It's not a 1 cent tax, folks. It's a 1% tax. And, say you buy $5 coffee every morning from Starbucks, 5 cents is going to be going to the school every day. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. This is a school sales tax, Now, you already pay a local sales tax, and WGLT didn't include any of this in their article, but you already pay a local sales tax that's going to be going up in 2026. Why? Governor J.B. Pritzker, via press release, says, I eliminated the state's grocery tax. But don't worry, local governments, I know that you got a little piece of the grocery tax. Me eliminating it kind of, takes money out of your pocket. What you can do without going to referendum and asking the people, you can raise your local sales tax in 2026. Don't worry, raise it by however much you want. Okay, that's what they're going to do in 2026. So Bloomington Normal, be prepared for that. They're going to raise your taxes come January 2026 after that grocery tax elimination takes effect. Okay, January 1st, 2026. Not to mention McLean County. They didn't mention this in the article either, that McLean County is not a PTEL county. What does that mean? Well, PTEL stands for Property Tax Extension Law Limit, which means they're not obligated by the state to put, I don't want to call it a cap, but a limit on how much they raise your property tax levy. Okay. Now, there might be ordinances locally that they'll probably just get rid of because it's a Democrat majority board. Okay. And they're going to just continue to raise that levy. They already did. McLean County already raised their property tax levy recently. Okay. So they're raising your property tax levy even higher, and they're not obligated in any kind of way to hold some sort of meeting to disclose how much they're raising the property tax levy. They're just going to keep raising it on you. So in 2026, most likely they're going to raise the property tax levy again. They're going to raise the local sales tax because of the grocery elimination. They're allowed to raise it without going to a referendum. I don't foresee them not raising it. Okay. They're going to raise it to cover the grocery elimination tax and probably then some because they're going to take advantage of the fact that they don't have to go to referendum for it. Not to mention your state taxes are going up. So your state taxes, your state sales tax is going to be going up. Your grocery taxes are going up. They're all voting to do that right now. Okay, so they're raising your taxes. Why? Because the state is facing, I think it's like a $5 billion budget deficit. I don't know what we're facing at this point. It's just a nightmare under Governor J.B. Pritzker. So they have to raise either revenue or cut. And we all know that Illinois won't cut spending. So they're going to just continue to raise your taxes so that way they can cover this budget deficit. Okay, so they're not telling you the whole story. Why? Because they're government operatives, and it's disgusting. The whole story here is, folks, they are going to tax you into oblivion. Okay, come 2026, you're going to get your property tax bill in the mail, and it is going to be exorbitant. We already pay some of the highest property taxes in the country, the highest property taxes in the country, and we're paying I think it's like $22,000 per student. You look at all of our neighbors; they're spending like half that. Okay, and the kids are doing better in some cases where their grades are higher and they're testing higher and they're reading more kids are reading at grade level. We have children not reading at grade level. 33%, I think, of kids, Illinois kids, can read at grade level. Okay, so and McLean County, I mean, they might be slightly better than, say, like Cook County or something like that when it comes to the grade levels, but it is not It's way less than half, okay, of kids can read at grade level in McLean County school districts. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. The kids can't do math or do read at grade level. That's what we're talking about here. And not to mention they're going to be using it for facility upgrades and energy efficiency upgrades. So what do you think that means? It means solar panels. It means your kids having to go outside for a fire that happens on top of the roof. This happened at Olympia High School. Kids had to go outside because guess what? The fire, the solar panels on top of the roof caught fire and then burned through the rooftops and ruined the gym floor. They had to replace all of that. End of the day, folks, be smart. Don't listen to these hacks who say that they need more money. They've got the cup out and they're going to keep bringing the cup out. They're going to tax you and it's going to be a death by a thousand cuts situation. I do want to get to this story. I'm sorry. I'm fired up about this situation. Former athletes, they're now suing the University of Pennsylvania after they were forced to compete with Leah, aka Will Thomas. I want to get to that. Also, the unedited version of Kamala Harris's interviews for 60 Minutes had to air. This was part of the negotiations with the settlement. They had to settle, of course, because Donald Trump wanted to look into their emails and what they were talking about. And they said, we're going to settle and we're going to pay you money, Donald Trump, because of the unedited or because of the edited Kamala Harris interview. This is the unedited version of Kamala Harris's interview that didn't air, by the way. So we're going to try to get to that. But first, let's get to it. Former athletes at the University of Pennsylvania, they are now suing the school after they were forced to compete with Leah Thomas, alleging emotional trauma, and the university reportedly tried to silence them. So sanity is being restored here, folks, which is really exciting. And I think a couple of days ago, he signed an executive order banning men from being in female sports, which is just great. But I want to play this clip. This is Leah Thomas. That's that male swimmer who, took a championship title away from Riley Gaines. Take a listen.
My name is Leah Thomas. I'm a transgender woman, a former college swimmer, and the first trans athlete to be named Division I NCAA champion. I started swimming when I was 5 years old, and it has taught me so much. It has given me so many opportunities to learn, grow, develop, and connect with my peers. Opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't have access to athletics. That's why it breaks my heart to see trans kids across the country lose out on these opportunities. The Department of Education has proposed a new rule for Title IX regarding transgender athletes. This rule would prohibit blanket bans on transgender kids, especially in grades K through 8. However, it would not prohibit discrimination against trans kids in the high school and college levels under the guise of competitive fairness. This rule is a good start. However, it is not enough. During this time of intense anti-trans backlash, the trans community needs explicit protections from discrimination in order to live our lives freely and equally. Luckily, this rule is not final. We have a 30-day period to urge the Biden administration to amend the rule and grant equal protection for all transgender kids, because all trans kids deserve the opportunity to compete and play in the sports they love without compromising who they are. Join me in commenting on this proposed rule and demanding equal protection for all transgender athletes. All trans kids deserve the opportunity to be themselves and participate. My name is...
Okay, so I wanted to share that with you. That was Leah Thomas back then, talking about the Biden administration and their attacks on women in sports. So according to the New York Post, we now have new news that UPenn alum Grace, Margot, Ellen, they filed a lawsuit just a day before President Donald Trump signed the executive order that banned biological men from competing in women's sports. These three graduate college students alleged their former school, Harvard University, the NCAA, the Ivy League Council of Presidents harassed, abused, and violated federal laws when they allowed Thomas to compete on their team, according to the lawsuit obtained by Fox News. Okay. So, quote, the UPenn administrators told women that if anyone was struggling with accepting Thomas's participation on the UPenn women's team, that they should seek counseling and support from the LGBTQ Center. Okay. So they told these straight college graduates and then college students, they told these women, hey, you got to go to the LGBTQ Center. It's your fault that you're struggling to accept Thomas participating on this team. So go to the LGBTQ Center and seek counseling. It's your fault. Yeah, victim blaming, really. So swimmers also claim that the school tried to indoctrinate them with their deranged ideology after officials told them that their concerns were nothing more than personal problems. Okay, so you have a personal problem with Leah Thomas, that you're not normal, okay, for not wanting to change in front of a dude. Okay, so however, after several years, this is now the school's legal problem, and there's nothing more satisfying than that. Okay, this is a legal problem for the school. They're probably going to have to settle, and these women are going to have, money in their pocket, likely. They're suing. So these graduates, I think we've got Margot and Ellen. Yes, Margot and Ellen, who graduated in 2024. And then you have Grace, who graduated in 2022, claimed that they were repeatedly emotionally traumatized because Thomas was allowed to compete with them, and that was a violation of Title IX. Administrators allegedly invited swimmers to talk, like a discussion titled Trans 101, where they believed that if they had a problem with trans-identifying male on their team, that they had psychological problems, not the trans-identifying male, but they had mental problems and that they needed to go see a counselor. Okay, just because I don't want to change in front of a dude, that means I have psychological problems? Give me a break. The swimmers have now accused school officials of warning them against speaking out against Thomas, that they would be branded as a transphobe and they would risk finding jobs in the future. Don't you dare speak out about how that makes you feel uncomfortable, Ellen, Grace, and Margot. If you do, then you're going to be labeled as a transphobe and you're never going to get a job ever again. It's disgusting how the school threatened these poor girls, and they instilled fear into them after the administrators allowed a grown man to cheat. He cheated and he stole their titles away, number one. Number two, they allowed this guy into the same locker room to change in front of them. Now, this is just blatantly illegal, violates Title IX, right? And then, President Biden, he changed and made an amendment to Title IX. And that's what Leah Thomas was talking about there in that clip. But the school needs to be held accountable here. They allowed a male to change in front of women. They allowed a man to cheat and steal their titles away, and they violated Title IX. And the fullest extent of the law should be upheld here, Title IX. And, justice needs to be served because these poor, poor girls were violated. Additionally, allowing a trans person to compete against the opposite sex doesn't even really make sense in their deranged ideology. The whole point of trans is this notion, it's a false notion, but it's that gender and biology are two different things. Okay, even though it's not, by the way, but even if their narrative was factually correct, that biology and gender are two different things, it wouldn't make sense to allow him to compete against non-trans women. Okay. It just doesn't make sense. But these people know that sex and gender are not two different things. Okay, so if they were two different things, like, I know this is hard to wrap your brain around, but if they were actually two different things, Leah Thomas wouldn't want to go and be on the women's team. It does matter, obviously, the gender and the biology. If it didn't matter, he'd just stay on the men's team. But it does matter, obviously, because he wants to be around women with not the same sex organs, but with the opposing sex organs of his own. So it matters. If it didn't matter, then he would have just stayed on the men's team. Okay, but their own ideology runs it doesn't even make sense. And this is just painfully stupid that we actually went through this kind of nonsense and we allowed a man to steal and cheat these titles away from these women, and then also change in the same locker rooms as these women. Glad that we're restoring sanity, at least a little bit of it, back into the United States with this executive order that Donald Trump recently signed. I do have to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe. Subscribing would really, really help me out, guys. His voice is deeper than John Wayne's. Yeah. That's what I don't really understand about the trans ideology. Okay. The whole point of being transgender is that, you're opposing this notion that biology and gender are the same thing. Okay, that gender, it doesn't really matter. You can feel fluid, you're gender fluid, and it doesn't really matter at all. With what your sex is, okay? But clearly it matters because he didn't feel comfortable being with the boys, so he wanted to be with the women with the sex organs, the female sex organs, okay? So he didn't want to swim with the guys, he wanted to go swim with the girls. So obviously it does matter. If it didn't matter, he would have just been a woman. If he didn't really think that sex and gender were the same, he would have just swam as a woman with the men, but he didn't, okay? He knows that sex and gender are the same exact thing, because that's how deranged this ideology is. When you really start to think about it, it's like it doesn't even make sense. They say that gender and sex, it doesn't matter, and that they're not connected. They are. It's the same. Gender isn't even a word. Okay, the sex is the word. Okay, gender is just this fake word that the left made up. So gender is the fake figment of somebody's imagination, and it's something that the left made up. Yeah, Danny, you're exactly right. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Kamala Harris. This CBS, they released this unedited video of Kamala Harris's interview months after she lost the election. The real scandal here is not that she struggled to answer these questions that a toddler could pretty much figure out, but that the network made edits here to make her to appear half dumb, only half as dumb as she actually is. So we're going to be right back talking a little bit about that. Smash that like button and share this out with your friends. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to be coming back in just a little bit. I do want to talk about Kamala Harris and this unedited video that has been released by CBS as part of this deal, I'd imagine, from the settlement where Donald Trump sued them because they misled the public in this edited version of Kamala Harris. They wanted to make her appear only half as dumb as she actually is. That's why they edited it. So it's really painful how stupid Kamala Harris is, and it's unfathomable how people cheered her on throughout this campaign. And she had no idea what was going on. She had no clue what was going on, and she struggled to put together the most basic sentences. And She assumed that the American people would be dumber than her. That's really, truly why I believe that she ran. I'll be right back. Smash that like button. Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Yes, the worst part is that she got pretty far, Kamala Harris did, and I don't think she wouldn't have gotten as far as she was had she gone through a primary, because people weren't going to elect a mentally incompetent candidate, okay? And I'm talking about Kamala Harris. She got pretty far, and she had like nearly 75 million votes, and my jaw drops, especially after seeing this CBS unedited interview that's been released now months after she lost the election. The real scandal here is that CBS edited this video, edited her interview, and they misled the public into believing that she was smarter than she actually is. And well, she's only half as dumb. This edited version of the video still made her look dumb, but she couldn't answer questions that even toddlers could probably figure out, okay, with this CBS interview. Now, CBS, they settled a lawsuit with Donald Trump. Donald Trump sued because they edited an interview, and they didn't do that with Donald Trump's interview. And they were being unfair, so they settled the lawsuit. Probably they settled because they didn't want to, in lawsuits, you have to they can request evidence. They probably didn't want to give Donald Trump any of their emails, okay, because they're government hacks, and we would be able to expose CBS for who they actually are. They settled, and then they released the unedited interview with Kamala Harris, and oh boy, it turns out that she's dumber than anyone could have ever imagined. Okay, she's pretty dumb. Take a listen to this little part of the unedited clips. Here we go. So they're kind of shuffling around here. She said, Bill, it's good to be with you. Let me fast forward here a little bit.
Your plans are logical, make logical sense.
Okay.
The way Washington works is not logical.
So he says the way Washington works is not logical. You have logical plans, and he's asking her, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay and convince Congress, who's divided right now, to pay for all of your plans?
Are something that they should all agree to.
That's what he's asking. How do you expect Congress to get on board with plans? So let's go over here to her answer. So she starts answering.
It's going to be taxes. It's going to be literally, if the economists, I mean, they're from each spectrum.
But I hear what you're saying about the economists. This is true.
Yeah.
But
So he chimes in here. You can't really hear him because he's not mic'd up because it's unedited. They, took down. It's the unedited version. They took down his volume, but she goes, "It's taxes. It's taxes. Economist perspectives," and like she sounds so dumb, folks, so dumb. And then Bill Whitaker, he jumps in. And, he starts explaining Kamala Harris, like he says, your plans are logical, and, the first scandal here is that he called Kamala Harris's plans logical, by the way. But she also had no plan to actually implement those plans. And she just goes, well, it's going to be taxes, raising taxes, I guess. The second scandal here is that he desperately tried to walk her through that answer. He saw that she was struggling and he jumped in, okay? And yet she still failed. She still failed epically. So the best she could come up with for her illogical plan here, folks, because I'm not going to be a Bill Whitaker and I'm not going to say that her plans were logical. Her illogical plans was literally taxes. She goes, well, it's going to be like literally taxes. Like literally taxes. That's what she said in this unedited interview. And gosh, it was so dumb. Like literally, that's the dumbest answer you probably. And the biggest scandal of it all. Okay, Bill Whitaker jumping in to save her, calling her plans logical, like all really like big scandals. The biggest scandal, she got 75 million votes. Unclear how many of those voters were dead, but she could have been the most powerful person in the world. That's a huge scandal. I can't believe that she couldn't even form basic sentences together and couldn't even answer a question that a toddler could answer. How are you going to pay for, your plans? How are you going to do this? How are you going to get Congress on board? Yeah, and I don't have to tell you this, but the media, they were holding her hand the entire time. through that campaign. And this was just such a blatant disregard of journalistic ethics. This edited version of CBS interview, they tried to make her appear only half as dumb as she actually is. And that was an injustice to the people. All right, I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. You go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Yeah, the clip was kind of like soft because the guy wasn't Mike. Sorry, I thought it was going to sound a little bit better than that. But basically, he was asking her, hey, how do you plan to pay for your plans? How do you plan to get Congress on board for your plans? And she said, well, literally like taxes. And she goes, the economist's perspectives is that it will work. And he tries to jump in, Bill Whitaker, and he's like talking with her and trying to walk her through this answer, but she still epically failed at providing the answer. Sorry about the clip being so quiet. It's tough because it's an unedited version of the clip, so they brought down his sound, I think, in the unedited version, in the unedited version, they didn't have his sound up. So they enhanced his sound, I think, in the edited version. So yeah, Donald Trump, he obviously got this settled. So yeah, they had to release, I think probably as part of this deal, the unedited version of the Kamala Harris interview months after she lost the election here. You guys go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We'll be right back. Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Man, we had quite the show this morning. You guys can always go back on YouTube, find the show, and subscribe to the channel. We did talk about the complete insanity that was going on in Michigan, where we had a Democrat politician, State Representative Lori Pahutsky. She announced that she sterilized herself because she was fearing that Donald Trump was going to criminalize abortion, although he's never said that. That could be the furthest thing from the truth. He's always taken the position of the Supreme Court, the highest court of the land, and he said, let's leave it up to the states. Right, but she sterilized herself. We talked about that. We also talked about the sales tax here locally. We did talk about that a whole lot, folks. Vote no. I'm sorry. I usually don't take positions on, referenda, and I'm not usually so blatant about it, but I hate seeing you robbed. That's really what this is. They're stealing from you, and your local sales tax are going to be going up in January 2026 already. Not to mention your property tax levy already went up in McLean County just recently, and they're probably going to do it again the next year. And your state taxes are going up. They're voting to do that right now via the state legislature. I mean, it's just a mess because Governor J.B. Pritzker, the state's in a $5 billion budget deficit. Stop giving these people your money. Stop voting to allow these people to steal more money from you and to give you poor results. The kids can't read. at grade level. 30% of kids can read at grade level in the state of Illinois. And it's about that for, McLean County. They might be a little bit better than other counties like Cook County, where maybe 16% of kids can read at grade level or do math at grade level. I don't know. I don't know the statistic in county, but it's lower likely from McLean County, but it's still really bad. Okay. Governor J.B. Pritzker is going to sit there and count and say that the kids are doing better than the national average. The national average has been tanking for years now. That is not a metric we want to try to meet. Okay. It's bad. We're still doing really bad. And your property taxes go to the school largely. So what are they doing with the money? What are they doing with the money? That's what you need to start asking yourself. What are they actually doing with the money? And then you'll find out that they're spending it on administrator salaries, which is really tragic because they're not even the ones in the classroom teaching the children. All right, I actually got to go, but you guys have a blessed weekend and we'll be back at it on Monday morning. Bye-bye. Love you always.